Okay, beautiful. We are on. So, welcome. Today, we're talking about cultivating confidence and clarity when you're wanting to answer your soul's calling. And I have Alexis Jane with us today, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
I'm Alexis Jane, and I am a clarity manifestation coach. So I help my clients get laser clear on what it is that they truly deeply want. And we only focus on the 20%. And once you have clarity on where you're going, everything starts falling into place and you manifest like crazy.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, and she's also going to be talking about one of her offers today. And I am Radiance. I help with excuse me. I help with um my brain is a little bit foggy. I just got home from work not a little bit while ago. Let me get my brain together. Ground. Okay, so I am a healer and energy coach, and I help heart based leaders and entrepreneurs get to their next level faster by learning how to trust themselves so they can make quicker decisions and trust themselves more deeply. So, today we're talking about cultivating clarity and confidence. And what I wanted to talk about specifically when I started to research and find ways of breaking down what confidence means and breaking down what clarity means, because I feel like that's used a lot in the coaching space. However, what does confidence actually mean? Like, how do you know that you are embodying the state of confidence when you're about to make a decision and it's a scary decision, it's a risk, and you're like, okay, I know that this decision is going to help me get to my next level. It's going to help me achieve a certain goal. It's going to help me position myself so that way I am more visible and more seen as an expert or go-to person in my field. How do you cultivate that confidence? And one of the things that I found is that confidence actually comes from the word confidere or fidere. So it's a Latin root word, and it means to be able to trust in yourself. So when I looked at trust means truth. So when you look at truth, do you tell yourself the truth when you're saying you're going to take certain actions to do what needs to be done so that way you can achieve a certain goal? But I know myself, I have sometimes said, I'm going to do XYZ, and I'll say I'm going to start a certain project. I say I'm going to take a certain action, and then I'll find myself doom scrolling on TikTok at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. And it's in those moments where we have to catch ourselves and say, did I tell the truth to myself? Did I honor myself? Is this someone that is embodying the confidence and clarity to take actions where I get to my next level? And I'm wondering if you've ever experienced that, Alexis, in yourself or in your clients.
Yes. It's funny. Last night I was sitting and I wanted to do something, and I think I spent maybe 30 minutes doom scrolling. I was like, Alexis, pull yourself up. You had a conversation with yourself earlier today that this is not happening anymore. And there's a certain topic that's happening on Instagram and Facebook that I've got a little bit addicted to, which I never get involved in any celebrity stuff. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's piqued my interest, and I just kind of got a little bit stuck in it. And I was like, stop, breathe, get up, go to the bathroom, break state, come back and do the thing that you said that you were going to do. Because when and this is something that I used to do unconsciously, and then I stopped doing it for some unknown reason, is being
Yes.
in the energy of the person that, so I used to be a personal trainer. So I always saw myself as a personal trainer. So I was fit, I was healthy, I did things that a personal trainer would do. And I was having a conversation with myself. I'm like, am I showing up for myself how I want to be, how other people see me showing up? So I show up for other people in the energy and the way that I want to be showing up. But sometimes I don't show up and I'm not present with myself. So right now, we're on a call, we're present with each other, there's no doom scrolling, there's this
Yes.
conversation that we're having because I've committed to you and I've committed to what we're talking about today. But then I go, I'm going to do this for myself, and I don't commit to it. And then when you do that, that's when you start losing confidence in yourself, because you're not fulfilling the commitment that you've created for yourself. You go,
Right.
oh, I've done that again, or, I didn't eat healthy today, so I'm not going to eat
Right.
healthy today, or I didn't exercise yesterday, so I've fallen off the wagon, all of the
Right.
things. And so when it comes to confidence, it's about taking
Mhm.
that actionable step, because you don't get confidence unless you continue to take action. And
Right.
I think this is where you go, oh, just feel confident and do it. And it's not about feeling confident and doing it. It's leaning into the fear and leaning into the unknown of, this is
Mhm.
what I want to be doing. And yes, am I scared? Yes. I always have a giggle. My I actually spoke to him today, and it makes me giggle. It's an ex-boyfriend. We're now friends, but we dated maybe 10 years ago, like when we first started dating. No, 8 years ago. It was in 2016, 2017 when we very first started, and it was when I was starting my business. And I remember saying to him, I really want to practice getting on video, because I want to be on camera. It's
Yeah.
something that I've always wanted to do, but I'm petrified of doing it. He pulled his phone out. I'll never forget this day. We're out on the beach. He pulled his phone out, and I burst into tears. He goes, it's just a camera. It's not going anywhere. You're not live on Facebook. You're not live on Instagram. I've just got a camera and I'm filming you. And I just had no confidence. I didn't know what to say. I was
Yeah.
hyperventilating. It was hilarious. And now I look back at that and I have a giggle, but I continued to persist
Right.
to now feel comfortable. Like, I don't even think about jumping on calls like this anymore, or doing a live
Mhm.
stream or doing a video. It's just like, this is who I am, because
Yeah.
I have now built the confidence of repetition, repetition, repetition of doing the thing.
Right. Right. I like how you talk about the situation with your boyfriend, because I feel like people think that they're supposed to have it all together before they do these actions. They're supposed to have it all perfect. It's supposed to be polished. And I feel like that's what prevents them from actually taking the action, by just allowing themselves to be imperfect in that moment and know that even though it wasn't what they wanted it to be in the beginning, it can get better. I know that that's something that I've done for myself. Like, I'll want the finished product. I'll want it all to be the way I envision it to be maybe 5, 10 years from now, or I'll compare myself to other people in the coaching space. And I'm like, wow, they have all the bells and whistles. They have it all together. They have this team. They present themselves so great. I can, get mesmerized by their thoughts, and not their thought leadership and how they present themselves. And I'm like, okay, I'm not there yet. But then that's where we have to keep going. And I feel like a lot of us stop when we get like 75% toward the finish line, because we're like, okay, I'm almost there, but I'm not quite there yet. And that's where I feel we can give ourselves that grace and compassion, and knowing that we can get there in our time, so long as we do persist. One of the things that I've been personally working on is making sure that I don't um, make any part of myself bad or feel shame for not having it all together. I know a lot of us in the coaching space have been told to silence the inner critic, but how can we reconcile with the inner critic? How can we actually allow ourselves to ask the inner critic what it wants? And it's wanting some form of safety. It's wanting some form of reassurance. It's wanting to know that what we're doing is actually going to serve us. So if we can have that inner conversation with ourselves and say, hey, I know that this doesn't feel comfortable right now. I know that this isn't familiar territory. I know that my brain is telling me to retreat, or to overcompensate by getting another certification to validate that I'm ready. How can I just be present with me and know that this is just one step, a series of thousands of steps that I'm going to need to take to get to where I want to go? And that actually brings up a story for me, because I wasn't always, in the spiritual entrepreneur space. I wasn't always a healer. I wasn't always an energy coach. I actually started my business ventures as an insurance, like I was selling insurance. In America, we have it. I'm not sure if you have it in Australia. But there's different multi-level marketing businesses that sell insurance. So I would go up to people in the grocery store, and I would just start random conversations. And I'd go to the gas station, I'd start random conversations with people, with the intention of getting their number and then maybe talking to them about insurance. And I laugh at myself because I was such a dork. I can only imagine what people thought of me as I would just like come up to them out of nowhere and be like, "Hey," and I had no bravado. I had no swag. I had like if you watch Pulp Fiction, Samuel L. Jackson to me has like the most like swag in the entire movie. He's like the bad motherfucker, right? I was like John Travolta tripping. Like I was that guy. I wasn't the cool John Travolta dancing. I was the one that was tripping and wouldn't listen, and that's why he died at the end, right? So that was me. So if I had stopped as an insurance agent, I know that I wouldn't be here today. And that was 7 years ago, but that was all part of the journey. So I feel like we can honor our journey no matter where it starts, so long as we keep going.
Yes, and one thing that you said, which always makes me giggle, where is there? There is never there. You're
Mm,
always evolving, you're always
yeah.
growing, you're always doing something. And don't get me wrong, I always say, where are you going when you get there,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
to enjoy the journey along the way. And we get so caught up in we
Yeah, the
need to be
destination.
there. And I was just speaking to a client, sorry, before
Mhm.
we jumped on, and she was talking about, I said, well, what's going on for you right now? She said, well, nothing's flowing. I said, okay, well,
Mm,
let's go back a few steps. So tell me what's going on. Things are dripping in, but it's not flowing. And I said, well, the drip is a flow. It's a constant drip of things coming in. You're not at a standstill. And so one
right,
thing that I always bring up with my clients is Chinese bamboo takes 5 years to grow. It is underwater and fertilized in the ground where it is planted every single day. It
right,
does not break through the ground for 5 years.
right,
After 5 years, once it breaks through, it will grow 90 feet in 5 weeks. So when you're on your journey,
right.
you've got to realize and understand, and it doesn't need to take that long. I'm not saying it
Mhm.
needs to take that long, but some things are going to take a little bit longer to percolate, to grow, than other things. So if you've got a big goal, big dream, big desires, it's going to take a little bit longer than a small goal, small dream, small desire, because
Right.
there's a little bit more energy that needs to go into it. But it's also a decision. And the clearer that you are on what you want, the
Mhm.
faster universe, God, higher self, source, whoever you speak to, can go, oh, that's what she wants. I made a decision
Right.
last week for what I made a decision last week that I wanted something to happen. I did a $10,000 paid in full on Friday. I've made a decision this week. I've got 2 people interested in working with me with 10K today. And so that's, I decided that this is what I wanted to have by the end of the month. And so
Mhm.
I've got really super laser clear on what it is that I want. And I'm going out and having those conversations, being
Right.
big, being bold, and doing the things on the back end. So we talk, you can, if you're in the coaching world, or if you're in business and you're like, everyone's selling from content, this, that, whatever. There's also back end conversations that are having that's not being spoken about.
Mhm.
And I know that I sell better when I'm in person, and people connect with me, and I
Right.
find it easier in words opposed to text. And that's always been the way that I've always created my business, is through doing video content. So really tune into, if you're building your business and you don't know where you're going, or you're feeling a little unclear, first of all, get really clear on and know what your process system and structures are for being able to get people to step into your space. Are you a
Mhm.
speaker? Are you a content writer? Do you like doing reels? Like, what is it that, like, what does your ideal client need to hear from you? And in my Unstoppable CEO program, what I teach my clients to do is we just continue to release and remove anything that no longer serves them. And I get them to hire a virtual assistant. I get them to start hiring a team before they're
Mhm.
ready, so that they can go off and do the things that they're best at, and they're fully supported on the back end.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I like that you said the before they're ready part because I feel like when we allow ourselves to take those actions before we're ready, it's amazing what happens, how things just start to assimilate and make us more prepared than what we even thought we could be prepared for. I had a similar experience where I invested with a coach and it was before I was ready. It was before I had it all together. It was before I had enough clients. I feel like we put all of these barricades in front of us where we're saying we have to have all of our ducks in a row before we take certain actions. And then we'll wonder why months and years sometimes go by and we haven't taken those actions and it hasn't manifested into our reality. So when it comes to taking those actions and being ready, I feel like we have to change our levels of safety when it comes to that, and saying that we can face the unknown, we can face unforeseen challenges without needing to have a level of knowing where we're going, like you were saying, knowing where there is, and knowing that the pieces will come together along the way.
Yeah, I love that. And something came up yesterday with a client, and I used the analogy of it's Axel Foley, the new movie.
Mm,
And there's a scene where the daughter says, the daughter, I've been seeing a counselor, and she says the child's always the child and the adult is always the adult.
mm,
And Axel sits there and he doesn't really say anything. And then later in the movie, I wish I'd watched it because I was like, I want to get the quote, but it just came through really strongly there.
yeah,
Is he's like, yeah, I am the parent, but I don't know how to parent you at this age. So being at any point in your life, there's a whole new way of being. Like I've got a 14-year-old. Do
yeah,
I know how she's going to show up? Do I know how, what's going on in her world and how to parent
mm,
her in certain situations with things that have gone on at school or gone on with her
right,
friends? No, because I've never done that before. I've never parented a 14-year-old before. So we are
right,
always continually learning. And when we start looking at our business and using our business as a game, I listened to a billionaire years ago and he
mm,
said when Michael Jordan was out practicing all the time out on the court, he goes, I'll go to family events, I do the thing. But once I'm finished, like Michael Jordan would go and get on the court, I go into my office and I'm studying and I'm working on my businesses and I'm building and I'm flourishing because it is a game and I find it so much fun to be in the game of business. And so we put so much pressure on ourselves and it needs to
yeah,
be this big successful thing yesterday before
mhm,
we even did the thing. Yes, we
mhm,
can quantum leap. Yes, we can step into higher versions of ourselves and we can
right,
collapse time. But first of all, you've got to get clarity on where it is that you're going and enjoying the process and
mhm,
moving away from being in the energy of waiting. Oh, I'm waiting for this to
mm,
happen. I'm waiting for the money to come into my bank account. I am
yeah,
waiting for this person to say yes. Go and have a conversation with them. Go and
but
make it
long
happen.
term
And
with
if
it.
they're not the right
Mhm,
person, well, who's next? It's not a personal attack on you. And they're not saying no to you. They're saying no to the opportunity because they could potentially be in fear. They really don't know how to be resourceful to come up with the cash flow to invest into yourself. And
right,
when you do invest into somebody, are you investing from fear of like, I need to be in this person's world because I think that they're a silver bullet and I think they're going to change my life? Or are you going, yes, this is the person that's going to change my life. This is the person that's going to help me stretch. And this is the
right.
person, when I have the energy exchange of the cash flow, I'm raising my frequency. And once you raise that frequency, everything shifts and changes.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. I love how you said the not waiting part. That's something that I am always actively working on and making sure that I'm not saying something is like so far, far away and it's not already within me. It's not already decided. It's not already something that, and so it is. You know what I mean? Like I have to remind myself that if I've made a decision, then that's what it already is for me. It's not like it's going to happen a year from now or 2 years from now. It is what it is now. And that time is really not on me. Right. So when yeah, and I know people are going to be like, well, time is relative. And I get that. And we can collapse time. I get that too. However, the only reason why we haven't shifted into that reality where it's available to us now is usually because we're wavering on our decision. We're wavering on that trust within ourselves that it can happen for us. And while I feel like I have mastered certain things, I always know that I'm a forever student in the game of manifestation and the game of business and really the game of life. Especially when you mentioned having a 14-year-old and not always understanding. Um, I may not be repeating you verbatim, but not always understanding how to parent in that moment. You know, I get that 100%, because not only are they different every day, but I'm different every day. And I feel like we can
Yes.
apply that to our business as well. Like, we're not always going to be who we are right now in every single moment. And our business isn't going to act the way we want it to act in every single moment. And allowing ourselves to be adaptable, I feel like, is one of the bigger um, key themes as well. Like when we see certain fluctuations and when we see things not operating in that linear format that we're wanting it to operate in, then we tell ourselves that maybe something isn't working, or perhaps that we're not working, or something's wrong with us, or we have to hopscotch between strategies. And then by not being committed to what we said we were going to do, that's already sending out a signal to the universe, to God, to source, that we are not trusting ourselves. And then that's when we delay the there that we're wanting to achieve. And then that brings up another point of just allowing ourselves to be present. And I'm not saying this as someone that doesn't have to constantly work on this every day, because there's times where I like, if you I'm sure you've heard of Untethered Soul with Michael Singer, and he talks about that inner roommate that will start like spiraling down into what happened yesterday, and then 10 years ago with yesterday, with the argument that you had with Susie, and then what I mean. Like, we have to really be very present with our brain, and with that inner conversation, and with making sure that our inner conversation is actually serving where we want to be.
Yes, yes, yes. And with decision making, there's a process with decision making. We don't
Right.
just make a decision. We need to
Mhm.
get all the wobbles out before we make the decision. So
Right.
understanding what your belief is. So we talk in the personal development, I was like, be positive. Oh, you need to
No.
be positive. Don't be
Uh-uh.
negative. And it's like, well, hang on a second.
Right.
If I'm not bringing up my emotions and my bullshit excuses and my bullshit
Right.
stories, I can't see what's going on underneath the surface. So we need to bring them to the surface, get
Yeah.
really super clear on what it is that you want. So then you just cut off any other option and you've made that decision and you've set the intention it's going to happen. And then it's
Mhm.
done. And then you
Mhm.
move from the place that it's already done and because
Right.
you've embodied it, but you have to get the wobbles out. There's a beautiful book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. And there is a beautiful explanation of him talking about one of his clients who goes to the and plays the roulette table, and
Mhm.
they talk about all the psychology behind it, but at a really short moment in time, he
Right.
talks about how when people play roulette, they're like, yeah, this, and then as soon as the table starts to spin, they're like, did I make the right decision? Did I make the right decision? Oh my god!
Right.
And he goes, oh my god, that's like life. People just
Mhm.
make a decision and then they have the wobbles instead of going, okay, I'm going to do this calculated, get the wobbles out first, then make
Mhm.
the decision.
The wobbles out first. I love that. I love that part, because I was going to take that somewhere. So with the wobbles, R.C. Barker, in his book The Power of Decision, he speaks on something similar. He doesn't say necessarily wobbles, but he uses the decisions that maybe not go the way that we'd like it to go, and he tells us that they are false successes. And if we can switch our framework from allowing ourselves to go down the spiral of I made the wrong decision to I'm being redirected based off of perhaps a wobble that I didn't see or understand within myself first. I love how you said the wobbles, because now that like connects that for me as well. And then there was one thing else I was going to say, and it's like escaping me. So I'm gonna let that come back to me in a minute.
Beautiful. And it is. And the more that, and
Mhm.
this is something that I've learned from Bob Proctor, is the more that you understand yourself, the more you get to understand other people, the more that
Right.
you become aware of how you do life, the more
Mhm.
that you can understand and witness and see what other people are going through. And
Mhm.
you can, just take that moment without and be without judgment. And that's one of the things that when people are around me and my energy, they're like,
Mhm.
I'm so me. I get to be me, and I just told you something I've never told anybody, right? Because there's no any energy in my body where there's judgment,
Mhm.
because I know that I used to judge myself so much, but then I
Yes.
judged obviously everybody else
Yeah.
because everything's a mirror reflection. So if
Right.
there's a judgment that does come up, I'm like, oh, where am I judging within myself? So everything that's happening externally is an internal reflection of what's happening with you. And so if
Mhm.
someone's chaotic and you go like, oh my God, that person's so chaotic all the time. It's like, okay, well, where am I showing up having some sort of chaos within myself? It's
Right.
like, oh, I'm a bit chaotic around this area of my life. It's not meaning that you're chaotic around everything, um, but it's that level of understanding of who you are. And the more that you understand your human behavior and your patterns, the faster you can move through things and you're not being stuck. So on Friday last week, I was so excited all week. I'm like, Friday's going to be such a great day. I'm so excited for Friday. Friday morning came. I could not stop crying. I couldn't eat. I felt so overwhelmed. My mate was like, what is wrong with you? You've been so excited for today. I'm like, don't ask me. I'm like, I'm not going into stories. Like, tell me what's going on. I'm like, I can't tell you. I don't want to go into story around what is actually happening within my vessel. I said,
Right.
I'm going to go home. I'm just going to go put myself in a bubble. And I came home and I slept for, I think, for about an hour, woke up, had a shower, put some music on, danced around, shifted my energy. And then I ended up getting him to drop me, off to where I was going. He goes, this is a different woman from who I saw earlier. And I said, I know my processes and I know how to move through my energetics a lot faster and not sitting and staying stuck in that. And then I
Mm-hmm.
made a sale. And I already knew that it was a yes, but I got myself really wobbly in the morning that it could potentially be a no. Clean that energy up and went, no, stay in the energy that it's already a yes and move
Mm-hmm.
from that place. And it was a yes, and it was a paid in full um offer. And so you get to decide, and you can be in any energy that you want to be, and it's the frequency. And so the more that you work on your frequency, the more that you work on your releasing anything that no longer serves you. Like every day I'm writing in this book. I've just launched a really mini 5-day program called Dear Business, I Love You. And it's a process that I've been doing for the last 2 weeks. I'm like, oh my God, this is really shifting and changing the way that my business is. And I'm magnetically attracting people into my space again, which is really, really beautiful because things went a little bit wobbly. So
Right.
we've got to understand where we're putting our focus and our attention
Mm-hmm.
and how to shift that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And then one of the things that you said that really stuck out to me is being able to know ourselves very deeply and then allowing that to also understand when we are with other people and how we interact with them and then no longer judging them because we've learned not to judge ourselves so harshly. It brought up a story for me that I had like just thought about and like it just made so much sense. And then you saying that actually confirmed it again. So I'm not sure if you followed. It was like literally the rap battle of the century with Drake and Kendrick Lamar, and Kendrick Lamar won. They're both great in their own field, but Kendrick Lamar won, and one of the reasons why I feel like he won is because he's dissected himself to a level where he can also dissect Drake. Like if you actually listen to the lyrics, he was not just talking about surface level stuff that Drake was talking about. He was talking about things that you can see because you've been able to tear yourself apart in so many words because and in that and being able to break himself down because he's gone through therapy. He's been very open about going to therapy. He's been open about taking classes in psychology from I think he went to UCLA, like their like night school program. And being able to dissect himself, he was able to dissect Drake, and in doing that, he won. So that being said, I completely agree about how knowing ourselves deeply gives us an opportunity to understand and know others deeply as well, just in our own observance of them. And that goes back to being able to be clear in who we are, so that way we can cultivate the confidence to answer our calling. And for me, when I have had issues with deciding and making sure that I am on a path that feels good for me, and I've actually made the decision and I've said that this is what I'm going to do, the reason I've been wobbly within myself is because I wasn't clear on the outcome. I wasn't clear on what I wanted. I wasn't clear on who I needed to be to get what I wanted. And in not being able to see my own wobbles, the wobbles came out in my actions. The wobbles came out in how I presented myself. The wobbles came out in me following through all the way to the finish line. So I appreciate you saying allowing ourselves to wobble first and be aware of those wobbles and then clear that energy first and then go with taking the action. I feel like we do it the opposite way. We get so caught up in like
100%.
going toward the goal that when the wobbles come up, we don't have the assets to come back to ourselves and get clear again.
Yeah, I love that. And, it's also creating those anchors for yourself. So for
Mhm.
myself, if something's going on and I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, I'm really triggered, I'll squeeze my fingers together and like get back into my body. Instead of putting my hand on my
Mm.
stomach or hand on my heart when I'm in a conversation, I just squeeze my finger instead of squeezing a full fist. It's just my fingers together, and it brings me back to awareness, back to myself. And it's happened before in the past where I would have gone absolutely bananas in
Mhm.
family situations with my sisters and one of four girls. And as time's gone on, I've evolved and I've taught myself how to, come back into self and be aware of my emotions, because we can go from this to this so fast. Like you could be
Yeah.
really super happy, then you open up your bank account and then everything changes because you're like, shit, I didn't know that that bill was coming out, or I didn't know that was
Mhm.
happening. And so start being aware of when you go from being really happy to something happening, and you completely shift your energy when nothing's actually happened other
Mhm.
than you've visually seen something and you've had a
Mhm.
full body reaction to it. And
Mhm.
when you can start doing that, you're like, oh, hang on a second. So if I can have such a fast reaction to being really happy to being really angry or frustrated or annoyed, what if I could go from being frustrated and annoyed and snapping straight back into happiness and joy
Mhm.
and flipping it on its head?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because,
Yes. Go
sorry,
ahead.
go. There you go.
No, what you're saying reminds me of, I'm not sure if you listen to him, but his name is Nero. He has Nero's Knowledge on YouTube, and he talks about how the rate of vibration is available to us depending on the spectrum, right? So if you're on frustrated and feeling angry, the opposite rate of vibration would be the joy and to feel like you have the clarity, right? So both energies are always available to us. It just depends on what we're paying attention to and how that magnifies the emotion. So what you're saying reminded me of that as well.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. And we are so powerful. And when you
Mhm.
remember and come, and it's not about learning anything more, it's about releasing,
Right.
and it's about unlearning the things that you've learned. And
Mm.
it's about letting go and going, is this my belief or is this somebody
Right.
else's belief?
Yes.
And I always have a little chuckle because there's
Mhm.
lots of conversations that happen in my space that I've had
Mhm.
to really clean out this week and go, hang on a second, they're not mine, they're somebody else's. And
Mhm.
since I've been releasing them, magic has started to drop in. Like today's been absolutely magical with the things that have been dropping in and the people that have
Mhm.
been coming to me, because I've opened myself up to create magnetism, to magnetically attract them back into my space, but I didn't know who they were. So
Right.
sometimes you don't know who you're supposed to have in your space. And when we get really laser focused, like I can only make money from my business, well, in actual fact, you can create money and abundance from anywhere,
Yeah.
at any point in any time. And I did
Mhm.
a session with my coach a couple of weeks ago, and within 5 minutes of us elevating my frequency, I got a phone call to say, can you come and work with me on this job? And I
Mhm.
was like, oh, that is hilarious. Like I've opened myself up because I was only laser focusing on one aspect of my life and my business. And then
Right.
as soon as we opened that up, it all started to flow in again. So where are you finding yourself being restricted in your business,
Mhm.
in life, of this is the way that it needs to be and being in control of it, to
Mhm.
I'm unattached to the outcome, but I know that it's already done.
Mhm. 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 Right. So that also reminds me of the dimensions that we put ourselves in and allowing ourselves to change those dimensions, which is basically what you're saying. Because I feel like we constrict ourselves based off of usually what other people have created boxes for us to be in. It's supposed to be this way with our business. It's supposed to be that way when you're working at a job. And when you open yourself up to saying, okay, the dimensions that I'm creating for myself don't have to be restricted to what society tells me or to what I've been told it needs to be, whether it be from how you were raised or perhaps the current environment that you're in. And we say, okay, this is what the dimensions that I'm creating for me. I'm going to put myself in a box that feels more expansive, because I feel like we're always putting ourselves in a box. It just depends on what we're allowing ourselves to be confined by. Right. So, and that goes back to what I was saying when it comes to trust. Like, how can we allow ourselves to be more truthful in what we're saying we desire for ourselves? Because I know for myself, when I said I wanted something and I don't get it, I tell myself that perhaps there's something wrong with me, or perhaps it just wasn't meant for me. And then I kind of gaslight myself, and I tell myself that maybe it's just because I wasn't ready. And it's not that. It was actually me just not knowing how to continue to trust myself when I didn't have the external validation to tell me that it was going to happen right then and there. So, um, for example, I know that in my last launch, and I posted this on Facebook. I was doing my workshop, and I was like so upset because I didn't have the 200 people that registered for my workshop. I didn't have that instant validation that what I had to say mattered because I didn't have the numbers to match. However, just because I didn't have the numbers to match didn't mean that I wasn't able to create the outcome that I wanted. I just didn't allow myself to stay in that energy where the outcome that I wanted was still available to me.
Yeah. And sometimes what we want is not what we're supposed to have. So when we
Right.
can release and let ourselves go and go, if it's not this, it's something better. If it's not
Yes.
this, it's something better. If this is not meant for me, then there's something better out there for me. And that is, we get so caught
Mhm.
up on, oh, well, it must be me. It must be da 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 da. And we create bullshit stories that don't
Right.
actually serve us. And so, like one of my girls that's in Unstoppable CEO, which is my mastermind, she is still working full time and she's got 5 clients in the pipeline to work with her when she leaves her corporate job. And they're
Wow.
high end clients, and she's already signed 1 client while she's working in her current job. The reason being is we got laser clear on what it is that she wants. We removed all of her wobbles on the things that she doesn't want, but also we removed the fear of and the imposter syndrome of why, like, how can I be doing this? Each and every one of you that's watching this, and we can do whatever it is that we want to be doing. There's nothing imposter about it. It's
Right.
you have knowledge, you can teach somebody, and they get results. There's nothing imposter about it. Go out
Right.
and do it. You were born to do this thing. You were born to serve millions of people. And again, it's making that decision and trusting yourself. And when it comes to trusting yourself, how do you trust yourself? What does trust feel like for yourself? If
Mhm.
you were to, if because we hear, oh, you need to trust yourself, you need to have clarity, you need to have confidence, this, that, whatever. It's like, and you need to have faith. What is faith? If you were to have faith, how do you lean into faith? What does that look like for you? What does that feel like for you? Have you ever experienced faith before? Same with
Mhm.
trust. Have you ever experienced it? If you haven't experienced it, why don't you play with it? Do some research around the energetics of trust, the energetics of faith, the energetics of confidence and clarity. Go,
Mhm.
oh, now I'm starting to understand it. Because the more that you do research and understand and you become knowledgeable on the things, then you can move from that place. Because sometimes if you don't know, you don't know. And that's why we
Right.
hire a coach. This is why we come into programs, so that you can witness and watch how other people do life. And then you can lean into that and be that next person who knows how to have trust, who knows how to have faith, who
Right.
creates clarity for themselves and takes big, bold moves for the things that they truly, deeply want.
Mhm. Well, wonderful. I really appreciate us doing this chat together. I know that you mentioned a few of your offerings. Do you want to just recap on those?
So I've got a program that's starting next week, date to be confirmed because I haven't set a date in just yet, but it'll probably start
Right.
on Tuesday or Wednesday next week, Sydney time, Australia time. It's called Dear Business, I Love You. So it's a 5-day program where we're writing love
Mhm.
letters to your business, but there's a process and a system and structure behind it to get into the energetics of falling in love with your business, to become magnetic to the people that you want to be working with. And then I have the Unstoppable CEO Mastermind, which is a 12-month container that we do 30-day, sorry, not 30-day, 90-day sprints to create massive momentum, and things shift and change dramatically fast when you're in a group container.
Beautiful, beautiful. And right now, I'm also offering my one-on-one program. And with my program, we'll be using my signature heal method. And this will help you create unwavering self-trust so you can make your decisions in any situation. And also, we have bonuses available until April 4th. Those bonuses include my time collapsing module, so that way you can lean into. My daughter is right behind me, so excuse me if you see a little person. She's trying to make sure she's not seen. Goodness. So, what was I saying? I have the time collapsing module, so you can roll up your sleeves, get more done in less time, and feel more relaxed. And those bonuses are available until April 4th. Again, you get 3 calls extra, so $1,500 value. And also, the final doors close to my one-on-one on April 11th. So that's where you don't get the bonuses. However, you can still work with me one-on-one. Thank you so much, Alexis. I appreciate our time together, and I've been appreciating our like exchanges in the DMs. I feel like it's been very fluid, and yeah, I appreciate your energy.
You're so very welcome. And thank you for the invite. I've had a lot of fun doing this today. So thank you. And if you want to jump into any of my programs or learn anything else, just send me a message and we can have a chat.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I hope you have a good day on Tuesday in Australia, which is always trippy to me. And I'm going to finish my night off in Monday, in the past. And I hope you have a beautiful one.
You too. Thanks,
Bye.
darling. Bye.